Okay, you are live.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Hello, everyone. I would like to call to order the Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 Chaska Planning Commission meeting. Liz, call the roll, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, I should read a statement. Welcome, everyone. As you can tell, this meeting looks a little different. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are holding our meetings via video teleconference. Because the City Council has declared a local emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic, state statute allows us to hold our meetings remotely. Even though we aren't meeting in person, we want to make sure the public can participate. If you've joined the Zoom meeting, you will notice that you are muted. We have a moderator on the call who will unmute those who wish to speak during the public comment portions of the meeting. Public comments will be reserved for visitor presentations, public hearings, or special circumstances determined by the commission. Once we reach these parts of the agenda, I will ask if there are any public comments. If you wish to speak and have joined the meeting by computer or tablet, please click on participants on the bottom of your screen and then select the raise hand icon. If you wish to speak and have joined the meeting by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Once your hand is raised, the moderator will announce your name by phone number and unmute your line. Please remember that public comment is provided at the discretion of the commission and is meant to provide productive discourse on topics related to the city of Chaska. Speakers shall refrain from comment or behavior that is deemed disorderly, derogatory, obscene, indecent, or off topic. Any person engaging in such speech or action may be muted or removed from the meeting. Those of you watching online or on Comcast Channel 15, please be aware of the following. Some of our commissioners, city staff, and presenters are participating in the meeting remotely. There is a delay between live meetings and the broadcast. All commission actions will be taken by roll call vote. We're working hard to make sure you can be heard as we protect everyone's health and safety. Thank you for your patience as we work through this unprecedented situation. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Liz, would you please do the roll?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Brass?
Here.
Lacey? You have to unmute first.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Riley?
Here.
Seiler?
Here.
Urbanski?
Here.
And Chairperson Dalkey.
Here. All right. Thank you, Liz. Next, I would take a motion to adopt the agenda.
This is Commissioner Olson. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner Olson.
Commissioner Brass will second.
Thank you, sir. Liz, do we need to do a roll for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Brass?
Aye.
Lacey?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Riley?
Aye.
Seiler?
Aye.
Urbanski?
Aye.
And Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is our visitor presentation. Is there anyone attending tonight remotely that has anything they want to discuss that is not on the agenda tonight?
Commissioner Dalkey, I do not see anyone who has their hand raised or has opened up a chat with me, so I do not think so.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. All right. We need to approve, next on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the December 9th Planning Commission. Those were sent to all the commissioners. Has everyone had a chance to review?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
I'll take a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Lacey.
Seiler will second.
Thank you, sir. Liz, roll, please.
Yep. Commissioner Brass?
Aye.
Lacey?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. Next, we have no consent items on the agenda tonight, so we will continue on to our action items tonight. 7A. This is a continuation or continued from our last meeting on December 9th. This is to approve the preliminary plat and rezoning for Harvest West Third Tradition Development PC number 2020-22. Liz, I'm going to let you take it from here.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, members of the Planning Commission and Chairperson Dalkey. Like Mr. Dalkey mentioned, we are looking at a continuation of an item that we looked at our December 9th meeting. So this is for the Harvest West Third, also known as Harvest West North in previous applications. It's for a preliminary plat and rezoning request. So the site here is located in red. So we're looking at the north half and full extension and continuation of the Harvest West neighborhood, which is on the west side of Savannah Way. So this would be the full completion of that. I'm going to go kind of relatively quickly through since a lot of these things are repeats of what we've already heard. But just to give you a little bit of background, so we did initially bring this preliminary plat and rezoning to our December 9th Planning Commission meeting. And at that meeting, you guys requested that this item be tabled so that they could work on some details for the proposed retaining walls on the site. These were significant size retaining walls, averaging out at 23 feet in height on a couple different spots. So there were concerns around the drainage, the overall design of these, the safety, and potentially downsizing them if that was an option. So the applicant is coming back with an updated preliminary plat request, which kind of changes the overall layout for the project. So a couple of those changes that have been done since our last meeting is pretty significant, frankly. So they have looked at a complete lot reduction and a little bit of a layout change as well with the project. So they did eliminate 27 lots, primarily on the east side of the development, which originally was proposed at 119 lots. So when you take out 27 lots from that, the total preliminary plat proposal tonight is for 92 lots. So the outer easterly cul-de-sac, which I'll show in a second here, was significantly reduced in length from primarily the lots being eliminated. So that basically kind of changed the overall layout and what was needed out there. And the reason for some of the changes is the type of homes and lot products that they're providing out there. So if you can remember from the original, they were proposing 3 different house products. Their cottage type house, which is a front load and side load detached townhome type product. We also saw their heritage product, which is kind of their medium size single family lot that they've done both on the south side and on the east side of Savannah Way. And then they also proposed a new product called their Manor product, which was a smaller product at 50 feet wide. So it got more product into the site in the last layout because it was a smaller product. So now they're coming back with 3 housing products again, but they've opted to replace the Manor lots with their tradition lots, which is their largest lot size that they've provided in the neighborhood to the east. So with that change, It significantly changed the overall layout and lot count out there. And I'll kind of show you the makeup of that on the site itself in just a mere moment here. So with those big changes, it ultimately resulted in the retaining walls that were proposed previously to be almost completely eliminated on the site. And you'll see it more in the site plan that I'll show coming up here. So that was a huge change and eliminated basically all of the concerns that were brought up in our December 9th meeting. So the retaining walls no longer exist along the park areas and between the rear yards of the lots on the east side cul-de-sacs. So that was a significant change. There are a couple exception areas where they still do have retaining walls, which is around a couple protected trees that abut the rear yards and public park space. And then there is one lot on the outer cul-de-sac that requires a retaining wall to accommodate a maintenance access to the stormwater pond. But that could prove to be eliminated as well if a different layout for that is proposed. But that one would only average out at 6 feet at its tallest point, but it's really around 3 to 4, even 5 feet in some areas. It's not as significant as what we've seen before. And then lastly, they also provided an additional opening into the conservation corridor area, which was mentioned in our kind of initial analysis. So they will be showing that on one of the easterly cul-de-sacs. So again, just to recap what their request is, they're asking for preliminary plat approval for 92 lots. 57 of those will be kind of that traditional single family lot, and then 35 of those will be the detached villas or cottage type lots. And then they're also asking for a rezoning from the open zoning district to a planned residential district, specifically PRD 77. This is just an existing conditions exhibit. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Same with these pieces, just changes from the concept plan that have been addressed in this preliminary submittal. This is really the exhibit I wanted to focus on, was kind of the layout of the 3 different housing products. So the westerly cul-de-sac hasn't changed since the initial preliminary plat submittal. So you have the cottage lots over here. There's 35 of those. And then we have the tradition lots, which are those larger 70-foot or 75-foot wide lots that are abutting the park and have basically this pretty vast viewpoint from these lots kind of on the north side here to overlook kind of the wetland area and area around that. And then we have the heritage lots, which range or average out at 66 feet wide on this outer cul-de-sac. So if you remember before, the manor lots, which were those smaller lots, were on this outer cul-de-sac. And then we had the heritage lots in this inner cul-de-sac. So again, we've done a little bit of some switching. The tradition lots were moved inward here, or is kind of what replaced the manor lots, and are more appropriate along this park edge with these larger types of lots. And then the heritage moved out to Savannah Way and so forth. So as you can see, this cul-de-sac is pretty reduced significantly since the primary submittal. So this used to go basically kind of to the full extent of what the green area was showing. So that really caused the reason for a significant retaining wall and more significant in height kind of in this area, just with the significant grade changes that happen from north to south here. So with them pulling this back, it has completely eliminated the need for a retaining wall in this area to support both of those cul-de-sacs. So again, access points into the neighborhood haven't changed. It merely is just a reduction in the length of that cul-de-sac. And then in addition, I'm showing red circles where they're showing park openings or conservation corridor area openings with this section of the development here. So one's lining up with Farm Hill Boulevard. We have the westerly opening from the west cul-de-sac, and then the new one that they've changed with this new preliminary plat layout on the west side of this inner cul-de-sac on the east. So that retaining wall that I previously mentioned is on this lot 17 block 6. It's in kind of the rear yard here. The maintenance access is coming off of the public right-of-way trail along the west side of Savannah Way to access this pond. So it kind of requires that retaining wall to accommodate that. There is a challenge with access to this pond with the wetland basically dissecting it from the road here. So I know we've already started discussions with the developer on potentially other areas that may not require going into a backyard to access this pond. So by final, we'll have hopefully those details sorted out. And then here's the landscape plan. Not much has changed from the initial submittal. Just wanted to show how that screening and boulevard trees kind of carry through. And then just the housing products. We have the heritage and tradition type of homes on the top here. And then the cottage style homes, both side loaded and front loaded versions that they'll be providing on that west cul-de-sac. So with that, we are asking you to make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat for the Harvest West 3rd based on the conditions listed in the staff report. You're also making another motion to recommend approval of the rezoning from open to PRD 77. We think they at most address pretty much all the concerns that were brought up in the December 9th meeting. So that's why we're asking you to make both of those motions tonight. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, the applicants are here as well if we have specific questions for them.
So Liz, things look really good. I'm really happy with the changes and where this plan has gone. Just a minor question, a few of those lots that were in the tradition, they're larger now, though there's about 5 of them. I'm just wondering if there's plans yet on how where like a sod line is in the backyard, or if there's anything special that we need to think about or put in the plans to have in their backyards, as there's a lot of elevation change from the back of their house to their lot line way down the hill.
I mean, that's a good point and question, which essentially how the lot lines are laying out on kind of these northerly areas is it does go all the way down to kind of that northernmost limit. So essentially they could, if they wanted to, put in fencing up to that limit there and sod too. But I don't know if the developer can probably comment on kind of how they envision those lots, those longer lots being, if they intend to fully sod those out. So Pat, do you mind providing some clarity on that? I thought I saw, yeah, he's in there. I don't know if we can hear you, Pat.
Yeah, Pat is currently, is it Patrick Rossi? Is that his last name?
Yep.
Well, he's unmuted now.
All right, Liz, can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, thanks, guys. So yeah, you make a good point on those lots. We're really happy with the way this turned out after reducing the manor lots, and I think we've got 6, 7, 8 lots that are just going to have tremendous views down to Savannah and the creek. But there's quite a lot of elevation headed down that way. I can say that I certainly wouldn't want to mow that. There's upwards of 50 feet of elevation drop. So I think our initial discussions here would be that we would seed that with a native prairie mix, kind of a low maintenance type of turf. And we're certainly happy to work with the planning staff on that and listen to whatever recommendations they would have there. And if they want to make a restriction with the final plat for that type of turf, that's something that we're certainly open to.
All right. Thank you for that input. Anybody else? You guys have any questions? The way we're set up right now, I can only see a couple people, so I don't know if somebody's waving their hand or wants to talk, but.
Commissioner Urbanski here. I don't have a question. I just want to say I was a very over the last month or so, I've walked the property out there and I was trying to envision a 25-foot retaining wall there, and it just kind of bugged me a lot. So when I reviewed the packet here a couple of days ago and saw that the retaining wall was out and they had changed that, I was very, very happy. And I really appreciate everybody with traditions on making these changes. I know that's not an easy decision to make, but I think it'll make the development nicer and definitely help the city look a little bit nicer that way too.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Brass, and I'd like to reiterate the same thing. I was more of an opponent last month with that retaining wall. I felt it was a safety issue and upkeep issue for the development. And I too was extremely pleased to see the change in the plat here. I think it makes much more sense. I know it cuts down on lots, and usually you don't see that from a developer. So I too think it was a very pleasant surprise and extremely happy.
And I'll chime in as well. I just want to thank you for addressing our comments, and I'm impressed that you turned it around as quick as you did. It's obvious that you did a significant amount of work, particularly probably in the holiday period, to bring this back to us here within a month. So
yeah,
looks like a win-win, and certainly have my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Rossi, I just want to echo what's already been said. I think you guys did a great job. You listened to us. It came back with a sensible alternative that I personally like as well.
Thank you. Well, I'll just add a bit here, if I might. It was a significant change, but when we took another look at it based on your recommendation and in the time that had passed since the initial preparation, we'd gotten our hands around the wall costs and maintenance costs a bit more. And then also, we're preparing lots for Robert Thomas Homes, our company builder here, and they had indicated that they were seeing sales go really well with those tradition bluff lots over on the east side of Savannah. So in the end, when we analyzed the costs and the needs for lots, it all worked out for the better. And just say thanks to you as well for taking the time to review that and giving us the direction to go back and take a second look.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Since we have a couple more things happening here tonight, does anybody have anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion.
This is Commissioner Urbanski. I'll make a motion to recommend the City Council approval of the Harvest West North preliminary plat for a 92-lot subdivision on 48 acres of land in the Southwest Chaska growth area, subject to the 20 following conditions, as noted in the report.
Thank you, sir.
This is Commissioner Olson. I'll second.
And Commissioner Olson with a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Liz, would you call a vote, please?
Yep. Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacey,
You might be muted again.
Yeah, you're muted.
Hmm. Commissioner
Yeah,
Lacey, can you hear us?
you'll just have to, there should be a pop-up message.
All right.
There he is.
Got it. Aye. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. Thank you. Commissioner Olson,
A very strong aye.
Riley,
Yes, thank you. Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and
No,
Chairperson
hold on.
Dalkey.
No, we heard you.
And Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. All right, now that that's approved, we need a motion to rezone the area from open to PRD 77.
Commissioner Brass will make a motion to rezone from
Thank
open to
you.
PR 77.
And Commissioner Seiler.
Commissioner
will second.
Lacey was second.
Ooh.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Liz, please call that vote.
Yep. Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacey,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. On to action item 7B, and this is a public hearing tonight. We're going to recommend the approval of the preliminary site and building plans, preliminary plat, and rezoning for Chaska Creek Industrial. Is that Oppidan PC number 2020-25? Got a little bit of a printing problem there. So go ahead, Liz.
Perfect. Thank you, Chairperson Dalkey and members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to do another share screen here. Can we all see that?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a preliminary site and building plan, preliminary plat and rezoning request tonight, and for the project that we've dubbed Chaska Creek Industrial. And this is proposed by Oppidan. Just want to provide a couple aerial exhibits here, kind of showcasing where this project site is located. So this is more of a zoomed out perspective, looking at the site. So we have Highway 212 on the easterly side. We have Engler Boulevard bounding it on the north side. And then we have Creek Road bounding it on the south side. Chaska Creek Boulevard is a collector road that has received partial construction to a certain extent on the property. Chaska Creek Way is another public street that extends off of there and cul-de-sacking and provides access to a couple other sites. So when we talk about the Chaska Creek Business Center, it's really what I'm highlighting here with my cursor. It's a large 87-acre site that's planned for multiple uses. I'll kind of showcase the layout of the concept plan that was approved previously. So tonight we're looking at 2 sites within the Chaska Creek Business Center, both of which were planned for industrial uses. So I've highlighted both of those on this aerial exhibit. Here's a more zoomed in perspective. Again, the northerly industrial site is kind of on, well, both of these sites are on the westerly half of the overall development. The northerly site is accessed off of Chaska Creek Way. Then the southerly site will have access off of the extension of Chaska Creek Boulevard, as well as Creek Road here. So as you can see, there's already one project that's been constructed out here, and it's known as the Medical Office Building. We approved that back in 2017. The Hy-Vee site was proposed for this northeasterly lot on the overall development and just hasn't been constructed yet. So getting back to those previous approvals, so it was in October of 2013, so several years ago, that we approved the concept plan for the Chaska Creek Business Center. So it was for that entire 87-acre area. So it was not until 2017, specifically February and May, that both the preliminary site plan, preliminary plat, rezoning, and then the final site plan and final plat were approved for the medical office building and Hy-Vee site that I highlighted earlier. So this is the 2013 concept plan that was approved. So it's kind of colorized here to kind of showcase the different districts or types of uses that were planned out for this project area. So the red was that retail site, which ultimately was approved for a Hy-Vee. We have low-rise office, kind of in this darker blue here, mid-rise to high-rise office in this lighter blue. And then the purple sites are both for industrial. The northern one was kind of dubbed as a corporate industrial site. And then the southerly one was a high bay industrial use. So again, we're looking primarily at the purple sites tonight to have developed. So they're in the second step in the process, coming forward with that preliminary plat, preliminary site and building plan and rezoning request. So a couple of comments that were brought up during the concept plan that are kind of translate into this preliminary phase here, specifically for the industrial sites. So for both of the lots, there were consistent comments brought up to translate into their preliminary drawings. So one of them was talking about pedestrian gathering areas and connections through the sites to kind of provide circulation in connection to sidewalks and internal systems to be provided on these sites. And then they were both commented on in terms of their loading docks. Both of them showed loading docks on the rears of the buildings. So there was an emphasis on screening those pieces from Chaska Creek. So Chaska Creek basically dissects the site in green here. So there was some emphasis on just ensuring that the screening from the loading dock was addressed appropriately. And then specifically for lot 1 block 2, which is the southerly lot here, the high bay industrial, there were other comments brought up on screening from adjacent residential, specifically the properties on Wetzel Lane, and there's another one on Creek Road nearby. There was also a comment on ensuring that the access into the site from Creek Road was either significantly offset from Wetzel Lane or lined up directly with Wetzel Lane. So we'll see a layout that's consistent with meeting this comment. Additionally, there was a comment on ensuring to provide a sidewalk up to the extent of the southerly lot on Creek Road, specifically in this section that I'm highlighting here. And then also there was a comment on ensuring that the overall use proposed out
One second there. I'm gonna contact.
Liz, I think we lost you.
Yep. Nope.
Yep.
Back now.
We're back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where did it cut out?
As
you can see here. Sorry about that.
Distribution center, use
Yeah.
discouraged, I think is where you're at.
Okay. It was just related to ensuring that the uses were compatible with the overall site. The distribution center use was discouraged due to higher truck volumes that typically come with that. In terms of the existing conditions, as we look at kind of these two sites in particular, so they encompass about 22 acres total when we look at the overall sites and subsequent area around it for ponding. So they equal about 22 acres. Primarily for the overall development area, they were previously agricultural farmed sites. So again, these are primarily open, vacant pieces of property, so pretty ripe for development on them. In terms of roadways into the development, Engler Boulevard to the north provides a controlled intersection with Chaska Creek Boulevard, which is the main road kind of providing access into this development area. Then we have Chaska Creek Way, which is the cul-de-sac on the west side that provides additional access to these other innermost lots here. And then just want to note again that Chaska Creek separates the north and the south sides, and it has also been utilized or emphasized as something that could be taken advantage of in terms of views or access to it in previous discussions. And then there's also stormwater ponding, mainly on the west and south portions, or west side of Chaska Creek Boulevard and south of Lot 1, Block 1. So what we're looking at tonight is a preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat approval of the construction of 2 new industrial office spec buildings. So when we say spec buildings, they don't have end users identified that would occupy these buildings quite yet. Rather, they will be buildings that will be built and then marketed to the appropriate end users. So we don't have specific users identified quite yet. And then additionally, the rezoning request would be from the open zoning district to a planned multi-use district, PMD 20. So that'll be the same zoning district that has already been applied to both the medical office building site and Hy-Vee. So I know there's questions on kind of the type of users that will potentially occupy these buildings, and the applicant has provided a pretty detailed analysis of kind of the projected or targeted end users that they hope to occupy these buildings. So they primarily will be towards tenants that are needing to rent space, which would provide them with flexible office and warehouse space. So that'll give them, when they look at these spec buildings, they can determine how much space they actually need within that building. So they're definitely set up to be multi-tenant buildings, but it's possible that one user could take up 2 different spaces, depending on their needs. They have indicated to us that these buildings are not targeted for distribution center users. They've provided a couple examples of businesses and other industrial parks that they believe are the targeted end user. So they've referenced Retail Tech Incorporated, that business, Lifecore Biomedical, and MedSource. So they believe these are the type of end users that would look for these type of spec buildings. So these businesses in particular specialize in both hospitality and medical industries, and they primarily have the office and warehouse type of use, and sometimes manufacturing too. So this is the overall site plan for both of the industrial sites. So again, we're looking at kind of the layouts that are more bolded here. They have some overlay plans on here just to show kind of layout. So as you can see, the extension of Chaska Creek Boulevard will occur to the extent of Creek Road. And there is a roundabout proposed at the southerly end of that. So that is planned to be constructed as a part of this project, which would then provide access to the southerly site. In the past, it just wasn't constructed. It was really kind of development driven to really provide this ultimate connection to Creek Road. So with this building going in, it triggers the need for the extension of that road. And then Chaska Creek Way is already constructed today, so that'll provide access to the northerly site here. So I'm gonna kind of split these up one by one. So we're gonna look at the northerly site first, which is lot 1, block 1. This is a 9.5 acre site. And then the building they're proposing on it is 133,000 square feet in size. It'll range in height from primarily 34 feet, and then their entrances will be at that 38-foot height cap. So they'll have kind of those projected areas to really call out the main entrances to these spaces. As you can see, there's one access into the site off of Chaska Creek Way, so at the bulb of the cul-de-sac here. And that was already figured out or contemplated when Chaska Creek Way went in. So that access lines up with what was initially intended out there. So the main entrance or front side of the building is oriented primarily to the north and the east sides here. So facing Engler Boulevard and what you see from Chaska Creek Way. Their loading dock area is on the back side of the building, or the south portion of the building, facing kind of the stormwater ponding and then Chaska Creek. In terms of parking, for the office and warehouse makeup of the building, they meet the requirements there and provide a little bit extra past the requirements. So in the event that this warehousing portion of the building changes to manufacturing, they do have to provide a different parking count, which is a little bit more intense than the warehouse use. So they'll have to show how that could be distributed through the site if that were to happen. And then lot 1, block 2, which is the southerly site. This is a little bit larger in size, so it'll be about 12.5 acres total. The building will be a little bit larger at 168,000 square feet. It'll be the same height as the northerly building. They're showing 2 accesses into the property. So we have one on the northeast side, gaining access off of Chaska Creek Boulevard. And this will be kind of that primary truck entrance to access the loading dock area. And then there's also another entrance on Creek Road, offset from Wetzel Lane here. So again, trucks will primarily use this northeasterly entrance. This entrance over here will primarily be for the employees if they're coming from the Creek Road direction. Otherwise, they could also use the northeasterly access here to gain access into the parking. So again, they also meet parking requirements for the office warehouse piece, but will need to show kind of a manufacturing density as well in the final. And just one item of note is we require a 10-foot setback for parking and drive aisle areas on property lines that abut right-of-way. So right now they're showing a 0 lot line setback on this southeasterly portion of the site. We're already starting to look at potentials of adding additional setback area here from a potential right-of-way vacation. So we are working on seeing if there's still potential of gaining some setback area on this side. Otherwise, that 10-foot setback requirement will need to be met. And then also with landscaping, I did break them up into both sites in the report, but I think it's really important to look at it from an overall perspective of the project. So this is probably the more significant area in terms of discussion, just with the size of these buildings and how much landscaping is required because of that. So as you start to get up in square footage and height of buildings, it requires a much more significant, denser landscape requirement. So with these buildings being over 100,000 square feet in size, it really drives that number up there. So the way our code reads, they have to provide a certain amount of caliber inches on the sites, which then kind of defines into a number of trees, depending on the size of them. So with the overall project site and the size of these buildings, it's requiring a 1,886 caliber inches of trees. So if we break that down, that pretty much amounts to 660 overstory trees for both of the sites. So in terms of where they're landing right now with their landscaping, they're under the requirement per code in terms of the caliber inches, and then where they're landing with the amount of trees too. And they've been working diligently with staff to try to fill in areas as much as they can. They've had to opt to put trees in a lot of off-site areas, so specifically around their stormwater ponding, and they've also shown it in city-owned ponding areas as well to try to get closer to that requirement, because they're really filling in every area that they can while trying to make it sustainable so that these trees don't smother each other essentially. So they've been working to get towards that caliber inch requirement where possible. We've noted a couple areas that they could fill in if we're going to try to meet that full amount of landscaping requirements. But as you can see, just looking at this landscape plan there, it's a lot of trees. There's a lot being filled in. It's very dense, especially on these stormwater areas where there's a little bit more green space to work with. So they're proposing a lot of trees as a part of this project. So we're still kind of working on that and figuring out kind of what other sites have done at these scales, if this is comparable to that. But I don't think we've seen buildings of these magnitudes in terms of square footage previously. So we're definitely kind of in the higher spectrum of what our landscape code requires because of that. But just want to mention that, you know, the plan definitely shows kind of all areas of these sites to really be filled in. So this is just showing kind of how they break down. So they're trying to fill in all available areas that they can to get closer to that requirement. And just in terms of kind of some pieces brought up for comments or that are applicable outside of kind of the landscape caliber requirement is ensuring that there's sufficient screening on this southerly edge here of the loading dock area, as we noted in the concept plan. So we primarily have some coniferous plantings kind of around this edge, trying to block what you see from Chaska Creek Boulevard, but with people using kind of these pedestrian areas off the site. And then also what's potentially going to go in on the west side of this project area, having some additional coniferous plantings proposed on the south side is going to be important. So that's just one comment related to landscaping on lot 1, block 1. And then with lot 1, block 2, there was a little bit more comments in the concept plan around the screening of the loading dock area, which they're providing us a sufficient amount of screening on that north side to screen from the creek as well as Chaska Creek Boulevard. And then these edges here are very layered up as well to help screen from kind of the west there. They'll be doing shrubs along kind of the south end of the parking lot. There will be some recession of the parking lot about 2 feet kind of in this general area, which would help with some headlight glare as well. from adjacent properties. They've also included a section drawing just to show kind of how in the middle of these sites, the creek and the pedestrian areas relate kind of with the landscaping there. So this is taking a section cut from the southerly lot at point A here up to the northerly lot here. So, you know, they'll be edging this off with some layered landscaping. They'll have a pedestrian area here kind of separated from the creek, or separated by the creek and the stormwater ponding, and then we'll have additional landscaping, an edge there with the northerly loading dock area. And then I also just wanted to show kind of this notion of pedestrian areas and connections through the sites. So they're showing kind of with this red dotted line where pedestrian movement can occur between both the sites. So what they're proposing out here is kind of a natural connection into the creek areas and kind of these well landscaped areas shown in red here. So these areas around the ponds will both act as maintenance accesses to the ponding areas, but they're also going to be areas that pedestrians can use as well and gain access to some gathering areas. So these areas in red, with the exception of kind of what's along the road here, will be mowed areas. So the intent was to keep it more natural around these ponds and then gain access to the picnic areas, which then kind of ties in with the natural view of the creek and so forth. And they've provided a maintenance summary of kind of how these will be maintained. So these will be continuously maintained because they are accesses to the ponds, but then pedestrians will be able to use them too. So they'll get mowed as the sites are getting mowed for their sod, and then they will also be unobstructed in the wintertime too. So there will be some open pathways for people to use all year round. And then I wanted to zoom into a couple of the picnic areas. So they'll be providing benches along these kind of natural areas, which would then provide views to the creek and some of these landscaped pond areas. And then they'll provide some picnic areas too that the employees can use, you know, during the warmer months, which they can gain access from these mowed trails or just right off of the parking lots here. But they're supposed to be nestled in to the landscaping to provide more of a comfortable experience. And then this picture above is kind of that intent or idea that they're trying to capture with kind of this overall pedestrian area. This is just an aerial site exhibit if we need to refer back to it. Really no comments on that. And then with the lighting, they do meet our lighting ordinance for both the fixtures proposed and foot candles required or limitations. So those, both sites are meeting that. And then with the architecturals, starting with lot 1, block 1, which is the northerly site, just have a couple rendering views to help you understand kind of the overall look of these buildings. So we have the loading dock view here up in the upper right, and then we have kind of more of an aerial view looking southwest on the building and then looking southeast. So the buildings proposed, again, will range in height from 34 to 38 feet. So as you can see, these entrance areas are more defined, so people can find them easier, and it'll help break up kind of the massing of the building too. You can see a significant amount of glass, mainly on these front facades here, which will make up a good portion of the material count out there. They will also be using an architectural metal paneling on these entrances to, again, kind of define those areas a little bit more. They're doing a diamond shaped paneling, metal paneling, that will actually provide a nice, unique type of material application out there. And then the rest of it will be the precast concrete panels, which is pretty typical on industrial buildings. And then kind of the color palette that they're working with is shown here. So they're using more of kind of those earth tones, kind of reminiscent of what you see in Chaska, but they also wanted to show some cohesiveness with the medical office building, which is adjacent to this site. So they've shown kind of a side-by-side comparison, just how this building would be seen from Engler Boulevard. So in terms of height, they're going to be very comparable. And then with materials too, they're going to show some complementary qualities between the two. And then with the southerly building, they'll be utilizing the same material makeup. There'll be slightly different colors just to identify them separately from each other. So again, a couple rendering views of the overall building are provided here. And again, the color palette will be a little bit different in both the precast panels and then some of the accent metal, but for the most part, they're going to provide very complementary colors. And then the heights are the same as the northerly building, and the material makeup as well is also the same with the northerly. So in conclusion, we're asking you to make two motions tonight. One being to recommend approval of the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat for Chaska Creek Industrial. And then based on the conditions that are listed in the report. And then a motion to recommend approval of the rezoning from open to PMD 20. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we do have the applicants here. I think both their engineer and their architect and the development company, if you have questions for them.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Before we open up the public hearing, I'll ask the commission if you have any questions for Liz or the applicant that might answer some of the questions that could come up in the public hearing. So go ahead.
Hey, Liz, so the concern related to future distribution center usage, the PMD 20, the planned multi-use district, does that limit that potential through the zoning?
It does. So it allows for kind of the typical office, manufacturing, warehouse type industrial uses with the exception of distribution centers. So the zoning is set up so that it doesn't promote that type of use.
Okay. And then I heard you mentioned a couple of times parking for a manufacturing usage. Did I hear you correctly that during the development of this from preliminary to final, that additional parking would be incorporated at both locations to cover that contingency in the future? Is that right?
Right. So we want them to be able to show how, if manufacturing were to go on the site, that it could be accommodated. I know they're aware of kind of that requirement, and we'll be able to show some additional parking on the site and proof of parking.
Typically what we would see is that you'd eliminate, it'd be a bigger user and they'd eliminate some of the dock doors and put parking in, one of the rear portions of the building,
Right.
which is typically what would happen. But we want to see it so that there's a plan out there, just to make sure that everybody knows what's expected.
Okay. Any other questions for Liz?
Yeah, I have one regarding, I guess, the roads and the traffic. I think right now the Chaska Creek Way is maybe a smaller road. And I think, we're going to have larger vehicles, trucks traversing, to and from these buildings, making the turn at Chaska Creek Way onto Chaska Creek Boulevard, and then potentially across the street, really heavy user of, the Hy-Vee that's been approved if that goes in. Have we been thinking about maybe how to manage the traffic or encourage going in one way and going out another way, for the trucks and or for Hy-Vee?
Yeah, I think maybe I can answer, Liz. I think one thing to consider that is that Chaska Creek Way and Chaska Creek Boulevard will be a signalized intersection. So, as far as accommodating traffic, stacking queues, getting people in and out, we've looked at that as a part of the traffic analysis. So I think the short answer is yes, that will work. But we do need to go back and look at the truck turning movements and things specifically for this new for the user here, just to make sure that we've got that squared away.
So, Matt or Liz, when at the southern end, you said there's going to be a roundabout on Creek Road, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, is there plans? Is it the city's responsibility out there? Is there plans to redo Creek Road to tar it? Or, I mean, it's a goat path now.
Yeah. So part of the discussion on Creek Road is really, a lot of the things that will happen are driven by sewer. We've been planning kind of from a high level planning discussion, not only this property, but all of the property that's west of 212 and south of Creek Road requires that sewer extension. So, we've been having a lot of discussions with the city council about, what happens to Creek Road, and ultimately, the kind of the decision of Creek Road will happen here, I think, relatively soon. But Creek Road we know it's in tough shape. We've done some basic maintenance out there to kind of eke it along for a period of time. I'm sure folks have driven it, they've seen it. We've gone out to at least get it to where we can plow it, maintain it, but a good portion of that road will ultimately revert back to a trail. And so, long term, rather than expend a lot of dollars now to do some more routine maintenance, we're just kind of, like I said, we're getting by for as best we can right now.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Commissioner Urbanski, I've got a couple of questions. One is just for clarification here. Chaska Creek Boulevard at the roundabout there turns in the Savannah Way, correct? In the future?
Yeah, actually, the extension that's shown there is really ghosted in for more of a transportation purposes.
Okay.
Chaska Creek Boulevard, as kind of shown on your exhibit, extends from Engler down to the existing Creek Road. 212 is just to the east of, I don't know if Liz, you can point to 212. And a couple hundred feet just to the east would be the another roundabout that we're planning for the connection at Savannah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. And then second question, and maybe a thought or an idea. So when we're talking about
this aerial, excuse me, you can see it a little bit better.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Got it. Perfect. Thank you. And then my next question is, we're talking about the landscaping requirements and the amount of trees here. And I know we're trying to put more trees in that will probably fit in that area. And I'd hate to plant trees just to have to cut them down 5 years from now so that other trees survive. Is there a program out there, or can we create a program similar to what developers do with wetland credits, where maybe you can take trees that should go into this project and put them elsewhere where they might be needed? Has that ever been done before, or just an idea?
Yeah, I mean, we've never had a program like that with the city. I think just from precedence, you know, with the landscaping, I've only run into sites that have met the landscaping. Have I had something of this magnitude before in meeting landscaping? No. I don't think we've had buildings of this size, at least recently, where we're seeing a big requirement for trees and trying to plant them all within the site while meeting ponding, parking requirements, all the other pieces that kind of have to fit into the site. So this one definitely tough, trying to get all those elements to really fit out there. So that's where we're running into challenges.
I would agree with Liz. You know, buildings of this size are a little bit tricky, as well as buildings on the opposite side of the scale. So I think this gives ultimately a chance for us to revisit and kind of think about it. We're trying to apply the code as it exists today, and not trying to put them behind a study or something to reevaluate that. But I think you bring up a good point or a good alternate. But as it sits today, we're just trying to get them to get as close as we can without, again, we don't want them to plant more trees than will survive on this site as well. And so we're trying to get to that balancing point of, you know, how much can you put in here? And then at some point, I think we all need to revisit it, but it's probably not occurring today.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I just had a follow-up for Matt. So you were talking about traffic. You studied like the cul-de-sac there on lot 1, block 1. It just was that the area that you're going to be evaluating truck movements in and out of the property off of that cul-de-sac?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Commissioner Riley. When the daycare area was kind of when it was approved and when it was looked at, we did kind of an access spacing review, for lack of better words, right? For how it is that the industrial park would interact with the daycare and those trip movements for how people would be coming in and coming out. Originally, they were lined up within the cul-de-sac. Since then, obviously, the plan had shifted the access to the daycare, and it really converts more of that northerly use so that there's multiple access points for people to get out for, the future office building, the current medical office building, and then we have, the daycare, which has been approved. This access really kind of, although it's maybe not in where most people would consider in a perfect scenario. We looked at all of the turning movements that basically for trucks and things to operate and come out, and it will work.
Yeah, it just looks awkward, that everything for the building of that size is focused through that single entrance on that cul-de-sac. And there's no circulation around the building. It looks tight to me.
Yeah.
Is there any opportunity for right in, right out off of Engler for them?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So when we started the discussion on this, and we worked with the applicant pretty closely. The concept plan, all of the plans leading up today have really included that access out onto Engler, more of an ancillary access for this corporate industrial. Two things that are happening. The corridor study that the county is really engaged in now, the future traffic volumes that are on Engler or will be on Engler will not allow an additional access both for trucks and for merge. It's actually pretty staggering with the numbers that are being looked at on Engler as really kind of the new Highway 5, that east-west corridor for, call it the southwest suburbs. So unfortunately, the county's policy just does not allow it. So, I think the applicant's done their due diligence to make sure that at least the truck movements and everything else works. I don't think that they would be moving forward with this site if they knew that operationally it wouldn't work for them for at least the use. So hopefully maybe that answers your question.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up the public hearing at 8:11 p.m. Kevin, do we have do we have anyone who wants to speak?
Commissioner Dalkey, we do not have anyone with their hand raised or a chat open. If anyone would like to speak, you can click the raise your hand button. I'm not seeing any takers.
All right. That being the case, we'll close the public hearing at 8:12 and bring it back to the commission for continued conversation and motions. And if we did get all of our questions answered, then I would entertain a motion.
I'm actually surprised no one's here. But, Liz, you addressed lighting. How about noise? How is that considered for the property? In the interest, being devil's advocate for the residents, I figured that would be one of their questions.
Yeah, and it's hard to comment on that when we don't have specific end users identified right now, because then we can usually get more information from them in terms of their truck traffic amount, how often, when, what are the hours of their operations, so forth. So it's really hard to comment on that right now. I don't know if the developer would like to, or the applicant would like to speak to that, or how they envision that.
I think the only thing
have a
we
lot
can
of
say,
answers.
Liz's staff, is that they do need to meet the state regulations on noise, like any other user and any other site. That noise is regulated by the state. We're not aware of anything particular that is being proposed, because it is a spec building. And so we've tried to address the issues we can, which are lighting and landscaping and, aesthetics, the best we can.
And if this is rezoned for PMD 20, that takes like a distribution center out of play, which vastly cuts down on traffic and noise and, coming from that you normally would get from a DC.
Commissioner Brass here. This is basically my specialty as an industrial broker. And so, I would just like to interject that overall, I think the development looks fairly good. I think the product looks nice, the design looks nice, the parking's good, the tree is good, the overall design of it with multi-tenant purposes is great. The parking off the roundabout, the only access that was noted before, is a little bit tricky, but as stated, we can't get a right in, right out off of Engler, so that's kind of is what it is. But in regards to noise, being an industrial broker, I could tell you your average warehouse user is actually kind of quiet. This isn't really set up to be a manufacturing building with the clear height. So I doubt you're going to attract some metal stamper or someone that's, making cabinets with that type of clear height. It's probably going to be some sort of warehousing user. And if it's not distribution, large scale distribution, then more or less, usually when I go day to day to these types of users and tenants in my buildings that I work on, they're relatively quiet. And when you got retail all around and traffic and this is fully developed, I don't think you'd notice it that much. I'm trying to find something wrong with it. I'm trying to look at it and make sure I'm looking at it to see if there's any consequence to passing this. But I think it looks overall pretty good.
So Mary Kevin, can you
Excellent.
just finish the answer for me? You say it's regulated by the state on the noise. So what does that mean? So if down the line somebody has a concern about the noise level here, what is the answer that they receive?
What we would do is come out here and do a noise test and to see if they're above or below the noise standards. There's standards for daytime and nighttime, and they're a little bit different. And we would do that testing. We've done that before. We had some issues with quite a few years ago with Michael's Foods.
Right.
And we went through that process and got them through a process and got them into compliance and made that move forward. And so that's really the process. So if there is a complaint about noise, that's really what we do.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. If we don't have any other questions, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend to City Council approval of the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat for 2 industrial buildings in Chaska Creek Business Center, subject to the following 18 conditions in our materials.
Commissioner Brass will second that motion.
Thank you, commissioners. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Liz, would you please do the call or call the vote?
Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacey,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. And I'll entertain a motion for the rezoning.
I'll make the motion to recommend approval for the rezoning from open to planned multi-use district PMD 20.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Commissioner Olson.
Urbanski, I'll second that.
All right, and we have a second. Any further discussion there? Hearing none, Liz, please call the vote there as well.
Yep. Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacey,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, 7C on the agenda tonight is also a public hearing to recommend approval of the preliminary plat and rezoning for Chaska Bluffs 2nd DDK construction, PC number 2020-24. Liz, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just give me a second as I pull this up. 1 second here. All right. One last screen share. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Got it.
Right. So as was mentioned, we're looking at a preliminary plat and rezoning request for Chaska Bluffs 2nd, which is proposed by DDK Construction. So to give you an idea of where the site is located, so again, this is a 2nd edition, so there's already been a 1st edition approved, which gains access off of the overall Harvest development on the east side of Savannah Way. So Chaska Bluffs First is basically the detached townhome product off of Harrow Cove, extending off of the existing Harvest neighborhood. So the area we're looking at tonight is also an extension off of the existing Harvest neighborhood, but won't be a part of it. It'll be its own separate development off of Deer Trail. So there's a stub street on Deer Trail that this overall development will be accessed from, and that'll be the singular access into the development. Just a couple site views into and out of the site for reference. So it was back in March of 2018 that the final plat for the first edition of Chaska Bluffs was approved. And then it was earlier last year, February of 2020, that we approved the concept plan for Chaska Bluffs second. So again, we're in the second step in the process. The concept plan showed 17 lots. That's what they're moving forward with tonight with their preliminary plat. So that'll stay consistent with 17 single family lots. Also with this request, they are rezoning the site from open to planned residential district number 78. So a couple things that have changed since the concept plan. So if you can remember, the original concept plan showed a cul-de-sac extension off of Deer Trail. It showed 2 stormwater ponds, one on the north side and one on the south side. The north side was kind of a smaller pond, and then the south side one was a little bit larger than that. So they have opted to consolidate the ponds into one pond on the south side, which was a positive change for a couple of reasons. One of them being the north pond was very pinched. It was located adjacent to a very steep ravine system. There were a couple areas that they were encroaching into the required setbacks out there, and it was the access to that was going through some side and rear yards of some of those properties. So it just wasn't in a very optimal location. So with it going all to the south, they have more room to work with, and we can get that northerly pond away from that kind of compromised ravine system on the north side. So with that, it did bring some changes with the tree preservation plan out there. So with the enlargement of the south pond, it did affect 16 trees on the south side being removed because of that consolidation. But like we said before, the elimination of the northerly pond to the south side, or consolidating it to the south, was more of a positive layout option for the overall site. So unfortunately, the removal of additional trees was inevitable with this enlargement. So that's the only downside of that consolidation. But a positive side to the tree preservation, we did note that all of the trees that were going to be saved needed to be within a controlled area or a city-owned area, so that there was clear delineation of what was being saved, and it was perpetually going to be saved in the future. So all the trees that are planned to be saved that were shown on the preliminary plan, with the exception of those 16 additional trees, are now within city-owned outlot that the city will own. So there are no preserved trees within people's private yards, which from staff's point of view is a clear-cut delineation of what's to be preserved, and that homeowners won't get the impression that these trees are for the taking since they're in their yard. So there will be a clear delineation of what's preserved and what's on private yard space. Just wanted to show kind of that area where the 16 trees are in blue that were affected with the enlargement of the southerly pond there. So all of the blue diamonds here are the ones that were affected as a result of that stormwater pond change. So with the preliminary plan here, there's not much different with the overall layout from the concept plan. Again, the lot count is the same. The overall development areas generally the same as well. So the overall site is 22 acres in size. So basically what's highlighted in red here. And then what's to be developed or disturbed is only 8 acres of that 22 acre area. So the green area is about 6 acres, and then the ponding is about 2 acres. So totaling 8 acres of total disturbance. But only 4 of those acres are really wooded. 4 of them are open, kind of previous agricultural use. And then as you kind of dissect it down even more, only 2 acres of that wooded area are really what being affected with the stormwater pond. So again, all of Outlot B is basically kind of the white area around the overall development will be deeded to the city of Chaska. So again, this encompasses some wooded steep slope areas, which is delineated by this pink dotted line. And then we have the required setbacks from that as well. So these open areas in between the development, again, contain a lot of those preserved trees that, again, the developer opted for a more modest plan compared to what they've initially shown before to really make these rear yards in this overall area much more of an amenity for people to buy into. So again, these will be larger lots, 85 to 100 feet wide, roughly a quarter of an acre in size, up to a half acre for some of these more easterly lots. Ponding is on the south side. There's also the maintenance access in between 2 of the lots there that will provide access to that pond and will be in a city-owned outlot as a part of that. And then it's also worth mentioning that there are 2 dump sites that were identified during the concept plan. So they have provided a remediation or an environmental assessment on these areas, which have indicated that they don't pose any hazardous results as of what's been dumped there, but these will need to be cleaned up prior to any permits being pulled, specifically a grading permit for the site. So the developer will be responsible of cleaning those up. In terms of kind of the extension of this road, Deer Trail, it'll be about 665 feet long. There will be sidewalks on both sides up to the bulb of the cul-de-sac, which is consistent with the city's policy, which will then connect into the stubbed sidewalks on Deer Trail. You can also see the ponding access trail here in between the lots, which will also couple as an access point for the public to get back into these ravine systems. Since all of this will be publicly owned, it'll allow residents to access these areas, which are beautiful natural escapes within the city. And then just getting back to the tree preservation piece. So with the overall plan of what they're proposing, and the red dots are what's being removed as a part of the plan. So 61 trees total are being removed from the site. So these are trees that are 12-inch caliber or more. There might be others that are kind of smaller than that. But from what has been surveyed, the majority of those trees are kind of the less significant species that we would consider. So cottonwoods, box elders, and aspens. So only 25 of those are kind of what we consider significant, which are the oak trees. We didn't see any very large caliber trees out there when we visited the site long ago. So we didn't point out any significant clusters or significant trees on the site, but you know, when we try to save trees, it's usually the oak or maple species. So 25 in those 61 trees are oaks, and they average out at kind of a 15-inch caliber. And then what they're saving is 69 significant trees. And actually a majority of those are oaks. And those are mainly situated kind of on this easterly edge here as you get closer to the wooded steep slope. So there were a lot of beautiful clusters of oaks here. Again, not huge in size, but still the species and kind of where these areas of preservation are definitely going to be beneficial for the overall development. So again, everything, all of the green trees or the ones that are being saved are located within city-owned land. So again, these will all be perpetually preserved because of that. So there isn't a need for additional conservation easement in properties, which can get dicey at times just in terms of how that gets applied and enforced. So the fact that all the preserved trees are owned by the city in an outlot just makes it easier in terms of a delineation of where what we own. So the rear lot lines specifically on this east edge were pulled back a little bit so that all of the trees that were called out in the concept plan along this easterly side here and a little bit on the south here are now all within public ownership. And then in terms of the product that they're proposing out there, the position is still the same as what was iterated in the concept plan. So these will be custom home product lots. So DDK has iterated that they will probably be the primary builder, but there is good potential that they would sell off some of the lots to other custom home builders. But that is the intention out there, is to have those custom home lots, which would provide some variety to the overall neighborhood, which has primarily been developed by Robert Thomas Homes. So with that, we're also asking you to make two motions tonight. One is to recommend approval of the preliminary plat for Chaska Bluffs second, based on the conditions in the report. And then a second motion to recommend approval of the rezoning from the open zoning district to PRD 78. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I know, I believe the applicant is also in the audience as well to help answer questions.
Liz, this is Todd Urbanski.
Thank you, Liz.
Oops.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, a couple of questions. I'm going back through my notes from when we last met on this project, and we had a couple of neighboring properties in that were concerned about the grading, the way their yards currently back up. Has the developer met with those people, or have they had any communication regarding those concerns?
Yes. So the developer was able to meet with the homeowner on 4141 Painted Sky Trail, which is, oh, it doesn't show on this aerial. I believe it's this lot here. Mm-hmm. He was the one that was more concerned about drainage and how it was going to relate to his site. So the developer has reached out to him, and they were able to meet and discuss some of the drainage concerns with his property and the project. And it sounds like they've come to a conclusion on, or at least start some coordination on how they can best approach the drainage problem on the neighboring property. So he had drainage concerns. The other property owner didn't have drainage concerns brought up during the concept plan, but the developer did try to reach out to them as well, and they haven't responded back yet.
Okay. And then also in my notes, I've got, I might have my projects messed up here, but it looks like I've got a trail written in there. Was there a proposed trail to go down to Creek Road then? Or is that just something that we've talked about potentially doing in the future?
Yeah, in the concept, I think we called it out. You know, they were showing a longer extension of this maintenance access to go even further into the ravine wooded area. But we've opted against that to keep it more natural, because this is a very natural area. So the maintenance access will still provide access into this area, but there's no plans to extend it down to Creek Road. I think we concluded in the concept that that wasn't the intention we wanted out there.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, it was the intention, but it wasn't practical.
Right.
We wanted to make a connection, but physically that is some really, really rugged terrain and you couldn't make the connection.
Okay. Anyone else before I open up the public hearing? All right. That being said, this is a public hearing and I'm going to open it at 8:36. Kevin, do we have any guests that would like to address us?
Commissioner Dalkey, I do not see anyone that's on the chat or with their hand raised. We'll say one more time. If you'd like to, if you have a comment, you can either click the raise hand button on your screen, or you can send me a chat and I can announce your name.
All right, Kevin, are you satisfied we don't have anyone?
I am satisfied. We still do not have anyone.
All right. Well, if you're satisfied, I'm satisfied. That being said, we'll close the public hearing at 8:37. Bring it back to the commission for any further comment, or I'll entertain moving on to a motion. Okay, it's a fairly straightforward project. Everything looks as Liz described, and nothing sticks out to me. So if there's no further commentary, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Commissioner Lacey, that we recommend approval of the preliminary plat and rezoning of the Chaska Bluffs second DDK construction PC 202024.
Commissioner Riley will second.
Okay, and let's Commissioner Lacey, if you don't mind, we'll make that we'll keep those two motions separate.
Okay.
We'll do the first we'll vote on the project itself, and then after that we'll vote on the rezoning. I think just to follow protocol, I guess.
Sure.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Liz, would you call the vote, please?
Yep. Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacey,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. Okay, now I'll entertain a motion on the rezoning.
Commissioner Brass will make a motion to recommend approval of the rezoning from open to PRD 78.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Seiler will second.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion there? All right, thank you, Liz. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacey,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much, Liz. Those were very good presentations tonight. So let's move on to our other business, which is just receiving in other meeting minutes. We'll receive in or read in the November 30th, December 7th, and December 21st City Council meeting minutes. We'll read in the October 12th, November 9th, Chaska Park Board minutes, and We'll also read in the December 21st, 2020 draft of the EDA meeting minutes. That being said, I'd open the floor up to any comments by the rest of the commission.
I'll make one comment. Last month, I asked staff regarding the finishing of county or the railings along the I forget the name of the road right now. I'm having a brain
Big Woods
meltdown here.
Boulevard.
Big Woods Boulevard, and I got to give kudos to staff because 3 days later they were working on those railings. So you guys carry a lot more power there than I thought you did.
That was just luck. Trust me.
You've always known how much
that was
power.
completely luck on my end. Yeah, it was just actually by happenstance that the railings were back ordered, and I got word 2 days later, I think, that the guys were out working in the snow trying to get things up just after Christmas. So
yeah.
Well,
That's
either
all I
way,
have.
we were impressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looked
Take
really
the
nice.
credit.
It looks really nice.
It does. Anyone else? Anything to add?
I had two things.
Thank you, Kevin. Go ahead.
Not to continue things on, but obviously we have two openings on the Planning Commission. So if you know anybody, please have them get in contact with Liz, and we can get them any applications. The council will be working to fill those positions. And so if we know of anybody, we'll be doing some advertising on that. But it kind of came, both of them kind of came after we had already advertised stuff. And so I don't think people realized there were, or we didn't even realize at the time there were going to be openings. And so, so we have enough people, but obviously we need two new alternates for the Planning Commission. So if you know anybody, that would be great. And one last thing, I'll be sending out an email to everybody if you haven't received it already. The city council will be holding a joint work session with all the commissions, and we'll be doing a training on social media and being on a commission and council. And that'll be hosted by the League of Minnesota Cities. And it will be on February 22nd. And so I'll be sending out a note on that with a time and a placeholder for you. It's 5:30 to 7 on February 22nd. Right now, it looks like that'll be a Zoom option for people. And so I'll send something out, and then I'm sure Kevin Wright will be sending out Zoom meeting invites to everybody as well. So I'll send you out something so you have it on your calendar. Your attendance is certainly appreciated. So we all know what and what not to do as our roles of commissioners or councils or staff as it relates to social media, because we've all seen some outcomes other places. So trying to stay on top of that. So those are my two items. So thank you.
Good deal.
Thank you, Kevin. I guess, well, let me ask you a question now. Has Commissioner Cross resigned too?
Yes.
She did. Okay, I wasn't even aware of that. Well,
Yeah.
then I wanted to, I just wanted to thank Commissioner Bovee for her good work on the commission, but also obviously Commissioner Cross, who's spent many years working on various city items, and she's definitely
Multiple
also
tours of
worthy
duty.
of a lot of praise.
Yeah. Multiple tours of duty.
That's right. So, well, I guess good for her if she time to take a break. So if no one else has anything to add, then I would take a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
And second by Commissioner Olson. Liz, would you call that vote, please?
Yep. Commissioner Brass,
Aye.
Lacy,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Riley,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Urbanski,
Aye.
and Chairperson Dalkey.
Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned, and I'd like to thank everybody for their good work tonight, especially Liz and Matt and Kevin. You guys did, you guys